Welcome to What's Your St. John's Story, a 30-minute segment sponsored by St. John's United, highlighting connectivity within our community through storytelling. I'm Rachel Simonson with the St. John's Foundation, and today we are talking about independent living opportunities at St. John's United. And my guests today are Lisa Sorensen, formerly a retirement counselor at St. John's United. She'll tell you her new title in a moment. And we've got Sally Paulos and Diana Notis, who are Mission Ridge residents and sisters, but don't live together at Mission Ridge. All right. So we're going to have a lively conversation today, and I'm going to start off by asking each of you to introduce yourselves, and I'll start with Lisa. How long have you been at St. John's? How did you find your way to St. John's?
So I am now a community relations coordinator. That's my new title. And I've been at St. John's for over 15 years. I came to St. John's in 2006 after moving to Billings from the Midwest. My parents had, when we moved, my parents were elderly, and after we moved, their health really changed dramatically. And so that sort of started this whole several-year path of going back and forth and caring for parents who had made no senior living plans. And so at one point in this journey, I remember saying, if I can ever help somebody not go through this, I will do it. And so 2006, I'm looking for a job, and there's a job open at St. John's in this department, and it was just a beautiful fit, and it's just been fun every day since. So.
Isn't it funny when you offer something up to the universe?
Yes.
The universe answers back.
The Lord is good and gracious, yes.
That's absolutely right. Well, we'll talk more about what your role is at St. John's in just a minute, but I'd like to ask Sally and Diana to introduce themselves and a little bit about how they found St. John's. So let's start with
Diana.
Diana. Okay.
For me, it was a matter of we had attended a downsizing class, and it happened to be held at Mission Ridge, but it wasn't really put on. It was put on more by people who deal with downsizing specifically. One of the things the lady really emphasized was think ahead. What are you going to be doing? Where do you see yourself in 10 years from now? Are you still going to be in your same house? Are you going to need care to do that? Are you going to move in with your kids? Are you going to move into an apartment? Or the other option, of course, is senior living. So I thought, okay, that is a choice I need to make. And so I decided to tour all the different facilities to see what I thought and set up an appointment to come into Mission Ridge. Both my sisters, we have another sister, the third sister and her husband, who all came together, and we toured Mission Ridge. And I will say that the minute I walked in, my first reaction was, this feels like a cruise ship. It's so nice, and the people are all so friendly. I just thought it would be a really great place to live. So by the time we finished the tour, all four of us had signed up to be on the waiting list for Mission Ridge. Wonderful. And now I got called, and here I am.
How wonderful. And how long have you lived?
Been here just a little over a year. And absolutely love it.
Wonderful. And Sally, how about you?
Well, part of Diana's story is mine also, but I remember attending the summer concert series at at St. John's and sitting out on the grass listening to the concerts, and I would point up to the apartments and I'd say it would be really fun to live right there or there or there, and then I could just come out on my balcony and I could see the people from above and I could hear the music, and I think that would be just the best thing ever. And sure enough, that's where I ended up with a beautiful view of the concerts, and I absolutely loved the apartment. But to me, after we toured all the other places, it was just obvious that Mission Ridge was the best fit for me. And I looked at the St. John's mission statement and realized it said something about living opportunities. And I thought, yes, I'm going there for living, not because I have to and I can't do anything anymore by myself. But I'm going to start a life that is easier and happier and more carefree. And Mission Ridge and St. John's is such a stable community. I could see other retirement places switch hands and then have new management and new rules and a different vibe to them. So I'm very happy that we chose as well as we did.
Well, good. Thank you for sharing that. And that leads us right back over to Lisa to talk a little bit about how Mission Ridge fits in to St. John's, because we use those two terms interchangeably, but St. John's is the overall, I call it the mothership organization. And Mission Ridge is the independent living option at St. John's. So would you talk to us a little bit about independent living, contrasted with what other people might think of St. John's as, you know, the nursing home. So tell us about that spectrum.
So that is the perception of, oftentimes, because St. John's has been there so long and it's been the nursing home for so long, is that that's all that there exists. But that independent living arm is really an exciting part, and I always say it's the most fun and the least expensive place to be at St. John's, and you can come and enjoy company with other people. You can enjoy privacy if you want privacy. You have someone who comes in and cleans for you. You have some of your meals prepared. You have opportunities to stay well and be healthy and active and exercise. You can come and go as you please, and it just is it's a very gracious, fine lifestyle, and it does help people hopefully preserve their health longer because they're worried about less of the things that typically you worry about when you're in a house. So,
well, I think you've told me the story of residents who have been there now 5 years, but initially they owned a motorhome and said, we can just pick up and leave in the motorhome, and if we forgot to turn off the coffee pot, we don't have to turn around and go home. We can
and they
call
jumped
somebody.
in. They jumped in their motorhome and went on a trip 2 weeks after they moved in. So, I mean, really, that's pretty amazing that they just felt settled enough, well enough to just healthy enough and happy enough just to get out there and go and travel and have fun. And that's what it's really about, is trying to give people opportunities, as Sally said, to live and to live fully and to live abundantly. It's a great place, and it's a plan. That's the other thing, because it's connected to St. John's. It's a plan for the future. So if there is a situation, if there is a hiccup in health or something, there's a whole arsenal, there's a whole backup team and a backup plan available there to help with whatever is needed at that point in time.
With life's transitions.
With life's transitions, yes.
Absolutely. So, Sally and Diana, that decision, you make it sound like it was a really easy decision to make, to move to Mission Ridge. Okay. So how did you know that it was time, first of all, to think about putting your names on the waiting list, and then secondly, when you got that phone call, how did you know it was time to say yes?
Well, for me, I had been on my own for about 20 years, maintaining a house and a yard and a car and everything, and I just thought, this is getting to be too much. I'm ready to take life easier. I had lived on a ranch for some years and paid my dues after that at a 9-to-5 job, and I was ready to retire. And I thought, okay, so I want things to be nicer now, and this was the right time for me to go. It's very much a personal decision, and it is not easy because it's a very scary step. It's kind of like retirement itself. It's very frightening to try to imagine what it's going to be like, a definite life change. But I wanted to make it before I was too old to do my own moving and before my kids decided where they were going to put me.
That's a really interesting motivator, isn't it?
I wanted the choice.
You wanted the choice, absolutely. Sally, how about you?
Well, and so my story is very similar to Diana's, and when my husband passed, I moved back to Montana, and the three of us ended up here together. and we talked about things like what do we do as we grow older. We did not want to move in with each other because we were all three independent women. Well, Nancy is married. Sorry, John. But we did not really want to, I don't know, once you've had your own home, then to try to live with each other could have been a bad situation. So we thought, if we're all in the same place, what fun would that be? And we, as we've said, we all signed up with Lisa on the same day. Had her a little bit confused because she said, whose name do I put on first?
I made you decide. You
I
had
need
to
you
decide.
to
Yep.
decide who's going to be the first one, and the second one, and the third one. And so we figured that out. And then it took me a long time to know I was ready. And I actually, being the little sister, followed Diana. When she moved in, I watched how she did it, and I thought, boy, if she can do it, I can do that too. And I actually had her call me up and say, I'd say to her, pretend like you're Mission Ridge calling, saying that my name is up and I can come. And she'd call up and she'd say, this is Mission Ridge, and I'd say, yes, I'll come. Yes, I'll come. And I actually practiced saying yes. And that helped a lot. I saw how she used a moving company to help her with the part that I thought was the hardest. I just hate putting things in boxes and tying and wrapping them up and stuff like that. And so I found out how she worked it, and I adjusted it a little bit. There are several moving companies that can help you. And, they have a beautiful system of providing all the boxes and all the moving stuff and taking care of the things that you're not going to take with you. And it was such a smooth transition then. I am so happy that I made that, and we're so looking forward to our third sister and her husband coming.
Are you practicing with her, calling her, get her to
I've
say yes?
told her that. Yes, I said. And she says, I know, I'll say yes.
Yeah, it is the hardest part because I hear many people get many, many calls from Lisa and her team, and they're just not quite ready to say yes.
Right.
So
Yeah.
practice saying yes if you're on the Mission Ridge list, I guess.
It's a great idea. I did not know you did that.
So let's talk a little bit about your experience, because for the 130 people or 40 people who live at Mission Ridge, they all have a unique experience. Some are very introverted and they just want to have a nice place to live where they don't have to take care of a whole lot. And others are very active and outgoing and want to be joiners. Where would you place yourselves on that spectrum? Are you joiners? Are you doers?
Sometimes I feel like we're a little too comfortable there because we just do join in on any activities that we think might even be interesting and say, well, let's give it a try. And there are so many activities that it's hard to keep it down. I feel much more active now that I'm at Mission Ridge. My days are so much more exciting and filled with fun stuff, and there's always things to do there.
What do you like doing the best?
What do I like
What are
doing?
some of the things that you really enjoy?
Go ahead. Golf cart tour.
Okay, golf cart tour. I found out that you could learn, you had to take a little course on how to drive the golf cart and pass the driving test, woo. And I found that out and decided that I would do it, and I did. And of course, Diana thought that was the most wonderful thing, and so she got hers too. And then we thought, how can we drive more often? And came up with an actual golf cart tour around St. John's that we planned the map of, and we've talked to a lot of people in administration about what's going on in different buildings and where everything is and what the future plans are. So weather has stopped us from doing anything now, but we can't wait until the weather warms up and we can continue our tour. Do you want to tell her who all we take on tours?
Well, originally it started with the idea of taking new residents so they could get acquainted with the campus. But we quickly found out that a lot of other people wanted to go too. Either they were physically incapable of walking down to the far end of the campus and then coming back up the hill, or they just wanted to go out and see the flowers or look around or see what the plans were for the future. We've even taken some of the staff. along because they've been curious as to what we're talking about and what we're doing. And everybody so far has made good comments about it in the little comment book that Sally has.
Well, you're great ambassadors for St. John's and the campus.
Well,
and I bet you
we've-
know more.
We have learned some interesting things from the people that we've taken around.
I bet you have. You probably
have
know a whole lot
stories.
more than even we as employees.
But it's nice. I think one of the really neat things along the volunteer line is that, and activities, is that you can pretty much pick what suits your fancy. If you wanted to stay in your apartment and just read, you can do that. What they told me when I first came, I said, oh, there's all these things to try. I said, go and sit in on a session or two. You're not committed to anything. Just go and try it out. If you like it, keep coming. If you don't come. Nobody's going to pick on you or say, why are you not coming anymore? And I think that that was really good advice as far as I was concerned. It helped me a lot pick out what I wanted to do.
Yeah. I mean, there's everything from starting morning devotions. There's a group of men and maybe some women who play pool at the same time. There's the actual swimming pool,
The aquatic classes, the
art classes.
Art.
Puzzle
There's
table.
a puzzle table.
There
beautiful
are
library.
library. Conversation areas. You can go anywhere and have a private conversation in a lot of very comfortable settings.
Card clubs,
Fitness center.
fitness center, and wellness activities. Wii bowling seems to be
Yeah, there's a
quite
good, nice,
very popular.
nice winter league going.
Yeah, Winter League. And then the ever popular happy hour.
Yes.
Yes, always happy hour. That's always fun to see. Yesterday you had a
National Margarita Day.
Yes,
Yes.
the happy hour area was standing room only. It
Yeah.
looked
Yes,
like.
it was.
Pretty much.
Well, how wonderful. I'd like to pivot back to Lisa just a little bit and talk about the importance of the continuum of care at St. John's. Because once you're a Mission Ridge resident or in any of our independent living communities, whether it's the Crossings out in Laurel or the Heights, Windstone up in the Heights, once you're a resident, if your health changes or you grow more frail, talk to us about the next steps for care.
Well, I think what we offer is peace of mind for the people who live with us and for their families, that if there's a time when health will change, that there's a next step for them, that there is assisted living, that there's memory care if there's cognitive challenges, and if there's a hospitalization and you need something temporarily coming out of a short-term hospital stay, you need a rehab stay to kind of pick yourself back up, or if you need long-term nursing home care, St. John's is really the only community in Billings that offers that full continuum to the nursing home level. And then our campus is in the Heights, and our campus in Laurel, and our campus in Red Lodge even has access to that as well. So that's just a wonderful way for people to know that if the chips fall, there's a plan in place. But the real beauty, I think, of Mission Ridge, and when people move soon enough, like Sally and Diana did, is that we try to keep people as healthy and active for as long as possible, so that that access to those is just sort of a backup plan, and that the main plan is to stay independent as long as possible. That is our goal that we try to accomplish with everyone.
And I know we've tried to put some interns on some studies, surveys, to find out if people do live longer at Mission Ridge. We're a pretty small community, so it's hard to say. But anecdotally, we have an awful lot of 100-year-old birthdays at Mission Ridge.
90 for sure. Yeah.
90 for sure,
Yeah.
and a few hundred. And there are a lot of very spry individuals
Oh, yes.
yet into their 90s. And I do think independent living has been good for them.
Statistically, yes. I looked up a report on it, and statistically, people who live in places, assisted living. The other thing I would say, too, is that people tend to get the wrong idea about our retirement community. They look at it as a nursing home. Oh, I'm not ready to go yet. But it really is more of an opportunity to increase the enjoyment of your life. There's less stress. I look at it as being probably one of the best gifts I can give to my kids, because when I was living alone, I'm sure they worried What if she fell down, or what if she got sick or whatever? Now all I have to do is push the little button and there's a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week nurse available that can
A
come.
response, response.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And the people who are there are just fascinating.
There's some cool
They
people.
come from every walk of life, and they have such a variety of experiences. I think our love of Montana is what we all have in common. That seems to be a pretty strong bond, but they're not all from Montana.
Right.
So it's been fascinating to talk with people and to get to know them. It's been really fun.
Good. Well, we're getting close to our ending our time together here. And I'd just like to ask you, Sally and Diana, were you acquainted with St. John's before you did your research about living at Mission Ridge, or was St. John's new to you?
I was raised Methodist, so St. John's really has the stronger Lutheran roots. So I wasn't as aware of the extent of St. John's. I've been so impressed finding out all that St. John's does do, not only maintaining Mission Ridge, but all the other continuum of care, the other services like the child care, daycare thing, like the adoptions. These you could recite a whole lot better than I can, but I've just been very, very impressed. And yet, as a Methodist, I don't feel discriminated against. We go to devotions every morning, and it's interdenominational, which I really appreciate, and that's the whole flavor.
Good. And Diana, Sally, how about you?
Well, and that's the point I was thinking of, is that it's it's Lutheran sponsored, but it's not just that. And there's no pressure or no talk of that. And I don't want people to get the wrong impression and think they have to be a certain religious belief, because you don't. There are all kinds of religious philosophies and practices that go on, and people just accept you for whatever you believe in. If you believe in that, that's fine, and we'll find common ground somewhere.
Yeah, we serve because we're Lutheran.
Uh-huh.
It's what we do as an organization. It's not who we're for, and we really don't worry about what anybody else believes.
Right.
We serve humanity. So let's finish up by asking you three the same question that we ask everybody who comes and sits on these cushions. And that is, if I were to run into you out in the community, probably in the grocery store, and I were to say to you, what is your St. John's story? How would you respond?
I would say that I enjoyed my independence and I loved my house, but it was very lonely doing all these things for just myself. I loved to cook, but not just for me. And particularly when COVID came along and I was so isolated, it really was not fun to live there. So moving into Mission Ridge, when I toured, everybody was so friendly. I thought, yeah, wait until they get your signature on the dotted line. And it is not that way at all. People have continued to just be so outgoing. I feel like I'm now part of an extended family. And things are so much easier, so much less stressful. I love not having to cook or do the dishes all the time. It's just, St. John's has made it a really easy way to live.
Good. Good. And Sally, how about you?
Well, I have to again agree with my sister because she forces me to do no. I believe my story is just beginning. This is my first chapter. I know that it's a love story because I love where I live. I love the people there. The people that live there and the people who work there are just exceptional. Everybody gets to know your name. Everybody says hi. Everybody can sit down and talk with you. It's just marvelous. So I don't know how my story ends, but I know it's going to be a happy ending when it does happen.
Well, thank you for that. And Lisa, what is your St. John's story?
My story is I get to spend time with people like this every day. That's, I mean, how do you call that a job? You really can't. And it's, you know, this is a big time in people's lives, helping them relocate out of their homes, finding a place where they feel comfortable, where they feel like they can be all that they can be in their older adult years, is an honor and a privilege for me to be part of that journey, and to the people I've met and the stories I've been privileged to be part of, and just the friends that I've made and the family that I feel like I've made. It's just been a real joy for me personally.
Indeed. Well, that is exactly why we have the tagline that we do, St. John's United, so much life to live.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else that you'd like to add before we finish today? No?
I don't know.
Okay. Well, then, you have just heard another segment of What is Your St. John Story? And you've heard lively conversation from 3 wonderful women. And we invite you to come to our campus and see that there is so much life to live. And we'll see you next time on What's Your St. John Story?